Even if he sings in the church choir, even if he volunteers at the shelter for homeless people, if he's hooking up on Craigslist with dudes while he's married to you, he's not a good person. That was one of the quotes that I read on Chump Lady, and it helped me so much because it's very, very hard to see someone at church, at the Kingdom Hall, give a beautiful comment and speak like he's so spiritual, but his actions don't prove it. And it did have me confused for a while because how is it possible that someone can speak like the tongue of an angel, but then go and turn around and then cheat on his family? And I do say cheat on his family because it really hurt all of us. He destroyed our marriage, and he had so many chances to make it right. And one of the things I learned in therapy was that I always wanted to stay for the kids. I had made that life decision. I will never get divorced. My church, my Kingdom Hall, congregation really discouraged divorce. They kind of have that mindset, like stay no matter what. And I had to really learn that it would be better to leave, that it would be better if I raised my kids apart from this mess. Our household was so full of stress and anxiety and really just not a really good environment for the kids. And the therapist really helped me see that the kids will grow up and become what they see. So they see their dad not treating his wife right. Well, that's going to become a norm for them. Do I want to raise my kids that way? And no. And so, even the misogyny that was going on at home, I don't want to raise my kids like that. I want them to treat everyone as equals. So this had to be done. It had to be done so that the kids can be raised and that they can say that it's not okay to treat their mom like that. One of the things that I have to add to is that when I moved out, we finally sold the house and I moved to our new house, little house, really cute. I felt such peace. The years of having lived with someone who was a serial cheater, I became a detective. I had constantly worried about, is he thinking about having sex with this person? Is he hooking up? You have your plate full worrying about being cheated on, getting STDs, being lied to. You have worries that he's going to spend money on all this stuff. And as soon as I moved out, I started rebuilding my life and I truly had peace. It's really the greatest feeling when you're single and you don't worry about anybody cheating on you. And I could focus on my kids, be healthy, work out. I think working out, even if it's just going for walks or finding some peace, hiking, hitting the gym, swimming, whatever, I do think it's so good for us mentally and physically. I'm going to do a little bit of a divorce, Troy, the aftermath episode here to kind of transition into how I started to wake up. Of course, the whole divorce and marriage did contribute to the fact that I ended up waking up, but the divorce and everything came first, and there were so many little things where I really thought, this really doesn't even make any sense, and why is this way? One of the things was, and I talked about it in a previous episode, the annual meeting with Toni Morris, where I really perceived Toni Morris as being cruel compared to what my perception of Jesus always was, as very loving and kind. And so those two beliefs was like a cognitive dissonance within me where I thought, boy, now we're seeing the governing body members on the big screen here, and they're not nice. They're not nice. I remember one broadcast we watched at home as a family, and one of the things that really stood out to me, and I think it was the very first broadcast we were supposed to watch, was all the rings and jewelry the governing body members had. And I got up during our family worship and I pointed to all the rings. And I remember doing that because it was really weird for me to see, especially when you're born into this religion and you hear the rhetoric of TV evangelists and the riches that the TV preachers have and how we don't ask for donations. You hear this, you grow up like that. And suddenly with this last governing body and like their changes to be on TV and being so prominent, everything inside me brittled. And on top of that, seeing like how cruel and bossy I perceived them. So my grandpa was still alive when the first few broadcasts came to be. He didn't really have internet access, so for them it was kind of hard to watch it in the first place. So you're really made to feel like left out almost. But then we found some way where he could watch it, and he was in shock because this was everything that he was taught the religion wasn't supposed to be. He grew up Bible in hand and just sitting there learning, really truly learning, and that really seemed to shift. It was all about preaching, but like this deep Bible discussion knowledge was lost in the last couple of years, and it really bothered my grandpa. And it's so funny because there were little nuggets. I think that my grandpa was awake, like he started waking up toward the end of his life. But throughout his life, he had experienced so much as a Jehovah's Witness. And one of those things was that he was at one convention where I'm going to use prominent brother for lack of better words, but we're not supposed to have anything prominent. But he was just well known, and they were really excited to have him at the assembly. And my grandpa was sitting next to someone who was anointed. And this brother was giving his long anticipated talk on stage, but it was crap, like they didn't like it. They were like, wow, this is not really a great talk. Like, who is this person? We're so excited to see him. And the anointed brother leaned over to my grandpa and said, "This is some culty crap." Like back in the day, culty crap. And I mean, my grandpa was just like, wow, he would laugh about it. But I think those kind of things kind of stick in your head. Plus, it was the anointed brother who called it culty crap. Amazing. So there's just so many instances like this that I have heard growing up. And I do think us being a really open family, we could complain about things. It was fine with everyone if you said, hey, I didn't like Tony Moore speaking like that. We're all like, nah, that wasn't good. So I think that really helped me too, always being open and honest. I wasn't censored at home ever. Like no one said, you're being negative. Not at all. We could complain, quote unquote, to each other. And so when with the new governing body, when all the changes started with like, suddenly the dramas were movies and, it was just all so different. One of the elders at our Kingdom Hall, he gave a comment and he said, yeah, this new governing body had tried to implement all these electronic, like internet changes a while ago, but the older members of the governing body were really against it. Like, I think Brother Sidlik was one of them. And so they had to wait till they all died off. Literally, he said this in a comment. We're like, that's weird. Because isn't it supposed to be directed from God? Like, you have to wait for them to die off. And, like, one of those things was, like, Caleb and Sophia, the older members of the governing body, did not find that appropriate to make, like, a cartoon out of the Bible. So all those things, you remember hearing those things. And then I personally had small children at the time, and I found the dramas that they were showing at the convention so incredibly inappropriate. You're forced to sit there with small children, and I found them violent and scary and dark.
Like, I think it was the one on Hezekiah. I've never seen it because I was sitting at the convention and I was with Troy at the time. And I said to him, I'm going to take the kids out because I don't think that this is appropriate for little kids to see. And he was cool with that. He's like, I know this is going to make you mad, but this reminds me of Game of Thrones. I mean, hello, like cognitive dissonance. You're at a convention for Jehovah's Witnesses watching this drama movie and it reminds him of Game of Thrones, which he was like watching. And I'm like, what? And so I took the kids out and I'm walking past all these families with toddlers watching this dark drama. And I'm like, the heck, like, this is so messed up. These kids should not be watching this. And I've always been like really strict with like what is age appropriate and what isn't, because I really feel like it traumatizes kids. I didn't take the kids to watch like Spider-Man when they were really little. That's not for teeny tiny kids. It's frightening, you know. It's when they're older. And then my dad had actually woken up from the Jehovah's Witnesses. He was also born in about 10 years prior to me. I didn't know that. I thought that he was just like not feeling like going to meetings anymore, basically. But he would send me things. He would send me emails. And honestly, it didn't like affect me. It didn't sink in. I had that culty firewall up where it doesn't even reach your brain. You just have that firewall up and it bounces off. But I did mention like that I was getting annoyed that they were showing all these dramas. And he said, yeah, in one European country, they actually got arrested at the convention because they were showing inappropriate material to minors. And I'm like, wow, I agree with that. But he also told me that guess who took the fall? Not the society, but the convention coordinator. He was arrested. And I'm like, well, he has like no choice in this matter. Like, you are given the material, you have to show like what the society, like you can't go against the society. You would be labeled, that is the whole culty thing about it. You can't stand up for what's right. You're being labeled negative and apostate right away. And that really irked me. And the other thing that really irked me was it was right after the Pulse shooting. And I was sitting at the convention and the whole United States was rattled after the Pulse shooting because so many people had died. So many gay people died. I grew up never judging someone who's gay because to me, other people in the world do other things. It's between them and God. It's not for me to judge. I've felt like we should be like Jesus. We should be nice to everybody and we shouldn't hate on anybody. And so there was this one article that said it's like when someone smokes, you don't judge what they're doing. You're just like, okay, smoking isn't for me, so I'm not smoking, but I'm going to still see you as a person who I'm going to try to preach to and be nice to. That's how I always viewed it. So there was a shift in the society, I felt like, where they started really being homophobic. And that felt very wrong and actually unchristian to me because we don't know what people go through. And so I thought like, that's weird because I don't feel like we should be so judgmental. It's not up to us. It's for God to be judgmental. And this was right after the Pulse shooting. It was right when they started showing all those movies at the convention. And they showed the one that was very anti-gay, homophobic. And to me, I thought, boy, this is really like propaganda. This really feels like wrong. And it's right after the Pulse shooting. How dare we even make a video like this? Everything in me brittled. And I looked around and I thought, nobody's like offended. I'm offended. I really am offended. And the kids were with me and I'm like, I feel like this is really wrong. We wouldn't treat people like this. And there was 2 times that I said that after a drama. The other one was the shunning drama where the mom doesn't pick up the phone when her disfellowship daughter and like calls her. And I said, I don't think that's right, which is like such a Jehovah's Witness no when you speak against what the organization is giving you, you know. So I'm kind of like teaching my kids, I don't really agree with this. So all this was going on amid like divorcing and this stuff at the Kingdom Hall where I felt like they weren't being really nice to me, but also like I'm having a really hard time like being divorced. I'm thinking like I'm never going to even really meet somebody. There's not a lot of brothers to begin with. The few brothers that are there, I don't really like, a lot of them seem to not even really want to get married or be in a relationship. Plus, I'm a mom. I really felt like it's just done with. I'm just going to be single till paradise and raise my babies. It's all good. Troy was giving me a hard time still, though, because, even throughout the marriage, you would get a text message on one hand, "You're boring me. I'm so bored with you." He really wrote that in a text. And then when I finally made steps toward splitting up, he would be like, "You're the only one I love. It's always you." How confusing over the years to go through this up and down, And the therapist, she explained it really well to me, how it's a cycle. Like, I point out something that is a deal breaker to me that I can't take, and we go through this whole cycle. I forgive, but he redoes it, and so you're stuck in this cycle. And when she drew it out for me, I recognized it is really true. I'm like trapped in this cycle of, oh, but he's so nice and I forgive him, and then he's awful again. So it was just time to break free from all of that. But even after the divorce, I think my anxiety was just really rattled with everything going on. And I would show up to school events and take the kids, and sometimes he would show up, sometimes he wouldn't. But he would make a point to come sit right next to me. And I felt like it was torturous. I would move a kid next to me, and he would find a way to sit shoulder to shoulder right next to me. And I was like, I can't even take this. I don't want to be near him. I don't want to have to deal with that. And he's trying to be all friendly and charming and all that. And I'm just this is not cool. So one event that we went to, it was in the gym. So it's all these benches that you sit on. And I got there early, and I'm sitting kind of high up, kids around me. My friend was sitting next to me, and I'm like, oh, this is so great. It's packed. He can't sit next to me. This is so great. I have my friend next to me. I have the kids in front of me on these benches. No way can he sit here. He got there late. He makes everyone move on the bench, including walks all the way up, and he's not a small person. He's a pretty big guy, and he's making the kids move in front of me, makes all these people move, and sits right in front of me, in front of this school bench, which basically felt like he was in my lap. And I can't even tell you how high my anxiety was having to go through that, because I couldn't even move. There was nowhere to go. I just wanted to run. My friend, I'm thankful she was sitting next to me. She was she couldn't even help but laugh because it was so absurd, but just nervous wreck the whole time. And I really do think he did it just to kind of have power, control, or mess with me. And that's where that Chump Lady blog came in really helpful, because she said you have to go gray rock. Don't engage, don't fight, don't give them any information. Just be as boring as you can possibly be. And that really helped me to get through this, because I thought I'm just going to be boring. One word answers, not engaging, not fighting, nothing. And I think that eventually that did help, where he moved on, So we navigated through it with the gray rock method. And that is the way to cope with the narcissist too. And I'm really thankful for Chump Lady, because she helped me get my crap together too. And also have to really thank my BFF, because she was always there for me since I was 14. Our journey to waking up, it was largely thanks to her. And I will save this for the next episode, because this is where the lightning bolt that struck was because of her. And it needs a whole own episode on how I woke up with that lightning striking, because it was crazy. And it was mind-boggling, but it was important. And my bestie, since I was 14, seriously, we have clicked since we were kids. And even though we are nowhere living near each other, she's always been like such a rock. She's always been there for me when we talked, like always, always, always. And I just thank her for helping me keep my sanity, because you do need your people in your life that you're able to be free and talk to. And even when the elders said, don't tell anyone about like Troy hooking up with guys, I told her. And she was not judgmental. She was so kind and supportive. And you know who you are, and I love you. I love you so much, girl. So in the next episode, we're going to go over really like truly waking up. And I'll label that episode 1 waking up, because dang, it's a story. Life's too short to put up with this crap, and I felt really free and happy. So there is happiness out there, but my story continues, and at the end there is a happy ending that I will share as well.